Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei found Shirone and Kuroka when he was a child? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Issei awoke in a world of flame. He was burning on the outside and the inside as his body was being consumed in fire. He had transformed into a 35-meter-long red dragon. There were 2 horns growing out of his forehead just above his eyes. He opened his mouth to scream, but instead a blast of fire erupted from his nose and mouth in a flame much hotter than any flame he had ever breathed before. The flame was not red or yellow like most dragon's breath, but a bright blue color, and it was over 2000 degrees Celsius. The trees and grass exploded, and the rock of the mountain melted in the relenting heat of the flames. The fire was well over 1000 degrees hotter than the fire of any other dragon that had ever lived except one. This was the fire breath of Dragwai Ghosh before he was destroyed, and his soul was sealed within the sacred gear. Issei did not know that though, his mind was that of a raging beast. Issei was a mindless dragon screaming in pain. Issei looked and saw a large lake at the base of the mountain. He unfurled his wings and leaped into the sky. He accelerated toward the lake and folding his wings he dove into the deepest part of the lake. Issei continued to dive deep into the water as it boiled around him. At last the fire inside and outside of his body quenched and cooled. Issei swam to the surface and began swimming to the shore of the lake. When Issei reached the shore, he saw another dragon waiting for him. This was a blue dragon, equally as large as him, and it opened its mouth showing rows of dagger-sharp teeth and started making noises that Issei could not recognize. They were roars of challenge, but quiet, almost pleading sounds. Issei didn't recognize this dragon, but sensed that it was responsible for the horrible pain and burning that he felt when he awoke. Issei lunged out of the water and attacked the other dragon. Issei was going for the other dragon's throat, his jaws opened wide. The other dragon slashed at Issei with its claws, knocking his head to the side. The other dragon roared something unintelligible at Issei, and he heard something deep within his mind. But it was equally unintelligible. The blue dragon tried to pin Issei to the ground. It was just as large and just as powerful. Issei opened his mouth and breathed fire at the other dragon, and it shied away from his flame. The blue dragon could not withstand the heat of his fire and retreated into the air. Issei shook the water from his body and leaped after it. The other dragon flew into the sky and abruptly disappeared into a strange pattern of light that appeared in the air. Issei roared in anger after his prey disappeared and took out his frustration on the surrounding forest. He breathed fire onto the forest in a sweeping arc that vaporized the trees and melted the rock into molten lava. When Issei transformed, Tiamat was expecting the change and she was not surprised, but his skin was much hotter than she expected it to be. Tiamat transformed into her dragon form and waited expectantly. She was surprised when Issei breathed fire. Issei had the original flame of Drag, and it was a flame that no dragon except Albion was immune to. The flames were directed toward the sky, but Tiamat still flinched in reflex. She watched Issei fly into the sky and plunged into the lake. Tiamat flew above the lake and waited apprehensively until he surfaced. She watched the water boil around Issei and waited. Finally Issei swam to the surface and started swimming to the shore. When Tiamat knew which direction Issei was swimming, she flew to the shoreline and waited for him. As soon as Issei's feet touched bottom and he started walking out of the lake, she called out to him, "Issei, are you okay?" To her surprise, instead of answering, Issei attacked her. Tiamat slapped Issei hard on the face. "Hey, what are you doing?" Drag answered her. Issei's mind is gone, he doesn't even know what he is right now. He is too much enraged and in too much pain to think. Then Drag tried to talk to Issei. "Hey partner, calm down, you're Issei Haidu the Sekiryyuuei. Calm down and think." Tiamat jumped on Issei and tried to reason with him. "Hey, snap out of it." In response Issei attacked her with his flames, but Tiamat leaped away from him, flying into the air. Then she opened the dragon gate and vanished. "Seraphal, I need your help." Tiamat in her human form was sitting in the office of the Mau Leviathan in the palace of the Mau and Lilith. "With the help of the Sekiryyuuei Drag and at the behest of the Mau Lucifer, I have been training the human, Haidu Issei, to fully awaken Drag's power without Haidu activating Juggernaut Drive. The Sekiryyuuei Drag and I used a potion given to me by a Beelzebub to rewrite Haidu's DNA and transform him into a dragon with the ability to retain his human form. Unfortunately, the transformation was much more powerful than we anticipated." Tiamat sighed in regret and shook her head. "Haidu has become a mindless beast, but he has unlocked Drag's original fire. No dragon can withstand his flame, save the Sekiryyuuei Albion. The current wielder of the Sekiryyuuei is unknown, but I fear that whoever it may be will be no match for Haidu in his present form. Haidu is currently rampaging in the dragon territory, and his transformation has caused a massive forest fire. Tannen cannot withstand Haidu's flames, and neither can I. What exactly do you want me to do, Tiamat?" Seraphal asked seriously. Seraphal was wearing her green dress that she wore for important functions in Devil Society. She had just finished inspecting the new arena and Aguerres for the ratings game and had returned to her office when she was contacted by Communication Magic Circle by the Dragon Queen. I have just finished briefing the Mau Surziches. He and his queen will help distract Haidu, and I want you to put out the forest fire and freeze Haidu with your ice magic. Ajuka will wait in reserve with the military in case we are not successful. You're not planning on killing him, are you? Seraphil asked. No, of course not. I have grown quite fond of Issei. Tiamat responded. My hope is that we can trap him in ice and give him time to calm down and his mind can adjust to his new form. Issei is a remarkable man and I am sure that his mind will return, but we must stop his rampage first. Wow, Seraphil said with a laugh, I believe you have fallen for Issei. No, of course not. That is. Tiamat's voice trailed off, then she cleared her throat and said, come on Seraphil, we need to go. Of course. Seraphil said. But first Seraphil spun around 3 times and changed her dress to the pink milky spiral magical girl outfit, complete with magic wand, hat and hair ribbons and thigh-high black and pink stockings. Then she winked and made a peace sign with her free hand. Come on Dragon Queen, let's go save the underworld and then fuck the Sekiryyuuei. Tiamat shook her head and opened the dragon gate. Your incorrigible old friend. Yes, I know, Seraphil said in a lusty whisper. But seriously, let's save Issei from himself. Then she followed Tiamat outside and waited for her to transform. Once the transformation was complete, she followed Tiamat through the dragon gate. Issei searched in vain for over an hour for his missing prey. He randomly blasted flame into the sky and onto the ground, leaving lava and a growing forest fire in his wake. Suddenly, the pattern of light reappeared and out of it flew Tiamat and Seraphil Leviathan. Issei turned and flew toward Tiamat spouting flames. He ignored Seraphil who flew away from him and towards the growing forest fire. Tiamat evaded Issei's fire and again called out to him. Again, he didn't understand the sounds and roared a challenge. Issei and Tiamat flew through the sky in dizzying patterns, each trying to get behind the other. Issei was growing tired and was near his physical limit, but he was too enraged to give up the chase. A magic circle opened and Surziches appeared accompanied by his queen, Grafia. They flew over to Seraphil and watched over her as she blasted water and ice over the forest fire and pits of lava, extinguishing the flames and freezing the lava into basalt. It took her more than 30 minutes to finish while Grafia and Surziches kept guard. They really didn't need to worry because the Sekiryyuuei was fixated on Tiamat, who continued to elude him. She was faster and more maneuverable than he was, and she also flew with cunning and intelligence while he pursued her. More than once, his blue flames narrowly missed her, and just the close proximity of the blast burned even her tough dragon skin. The fact that in his maddened state, Issei could kill her was very real. She was also growing fatigued, but she needed to wait for Seraphil to finish putting out the fires before their plan could be put into place. This was her responsibility, and she was willing to pay for her miscalculations and protect the dragon territory, even if it cost her life. Eventually the fires were out, and Seraphil flew toward Tiamat's and Issei's aerial dance. Tiamat led Issei toward Seraphil, Surziches and Grafia. Seraphil fired a tremendous stream of ice into Issei's face, and Surziches fired powerful bursts of energy into the ice, turning it into steam. Issei was blinded by the immense cloud of steam, and Issei lost sight of Tiamat, who took advantage of Issei's blindness and attacked him. She flew into a steep climb and spread her wings to stall her speed, causing Issei to overtake her. She climbed into the sky above him and dove at him at top speed. Seraphil along with Surziches attacked Issei from 3 different directions, Seraphil with blasts of ice, while Surziches and Grafia attacked with blasts of demonic power. They weren't trying to kill or even injure him, they were only distracting him so that Tiamat could take him down. Tiamat crashed into Issei, forcing him down. She pinned his wings to his side while grabbing his neck just behind his head with her powerful jaws in a hole to interrupt the blood flow to his brain. She drove him to the ground and didn't release her chokehold until his body went limp. Tiamat released her hold on Issei's neck when she felt him relax into unconsciousness. She waited several minutes, but he still didn't move. She climbed off of his back and transformed back to her human form, then she reached up and touched his face in regret. I'm sorry, Issei. She said softly. I didn't anticipate your transformation being so extreme. Come back to me. You are a man, no, a dragon, not a beast. Issei didn't move, but slowly he shrank and transformed back into his human form. His face was severely burned along with the rest of his body. Is he still alive? Grafia asked. Yes, but his body needs to be healed before his mind can be restored. I am going to leave him in your care while I search for a healer capable of restoring both. Please transport him to the hospital. My clan has the best hospital in the underworld. Seraphil said. I will transport him directly to the emergency room of Sitri General Hospital. I will pay whatever it costs for his care. Tiamat said in regret. This is all my fault. No, it is not. Ajuka and I also are responsible for what happened. Surziches responded. The Gremory family will pay for his care. I was the one who convinced both you and Ajuka to transform Issei into a dragon. He is not going to die. Not on my watch. Then he paused and said thoughtfully, my sister told me that the bearer of the sacred gear Twilight Healing is already familiar with Issei. She is the human girl that the Sekiryyuuei rescued from a priest serving the fallen angels. That's right, her name is Asia Argento. She was rumored to have been excommunicated for healing a devil. Seraful replied. Sona told me about her. She is attending Kuo Academy with Sona. And Rias. Serziches said. She is living with the Haidu family in the Grand Gremory Hotel in Kuo Prefecture while their house is being rebuilt. I will go and get her. No. I will go. Tiamat said. I am the one who transformed the Sekiryyuuei. I need to apologize to his family for his injuries. Then she knelt down and cast a sleep spell on Issei and kissed him lightly on the forehead. Then she bowed to Seraful and said, I will leave him in your care. Don't let him die. It won't happen. My dear sister is in love with him. I will keep him alive even if I have to take every phoenix tear in the underworld by force. Seraful replied. Tiamat nodded and then said to Serziches, I am going now. Tiamat opened the dragon gate and vanished. Then Seraful reached down and picked Issei up. Then holding him gently she opened a magic circle and teleported to the hospital. Left alone with Grafia, Serziches scanned the area of destruction. It is going to take time for this forest to recover. We need to replant the trees and apologize to Tannen for the destruction. Yes, of course, my king. Grafia responded. Then she smiled and said. The sister of Seraful isn't the only one who is in love with the Sekiryyuuei. Rias is also hopelessly in love with him. I know Grafia. I know. First we will go find Tannen, then we will go to the hospital and check on Issei. Once his condition is stabilized, I will inform my sister. It was nearly midnight when someone knocked on the door. Goru got out of bed and went to answer the door. Both Shirone and Kuroka also went into the living room and stood guard when he opened the door. Access to the suite was only available to someone with the access cards allowing access to the top floor of the hotel. The only people with those cards were the Haidu family, including Shirone, Kuroka and Asia, and the hotel manager and the private maid who only cleaned the suite in the morning. The maintenance staff didn't even have access to the suite without being accompanied by the manager, and none of the other staff had access to the suite. Shirone and Kuroka took up defensive positions, and they both nodded to Goru who opened the door. To everyone's surprise, the person at the door was a young woman with blue hair and eyes. Both Shirone and Kuroka could sense that she was a person with great power, but they did not sense any hostility from her. The woman bowed deeply and asked Goru, are you the father of Haidu Issei? Alarmed, Goru answered, yes, has something happened to my son? I'm afraid so, he has been severely injured and he has been taken to the hospital. Is the healer Asia Argento here as well? Both Asia and Mickey had also entered the room and they were standing behind Shirone and Kuroka. Asia timidly answered, I'm Asia Argento. What happened to Issei? He was hurt in a training accident. The woman tried to answer, but she was cut off by Kuroka, who had transformed into her Nekomata form. Shirone had also transformed, and they both stepped between Goru and the woman. Cut the bullshit, lady. Kuroka said, interrupting her. Issei is no ordinary man who can easily be injured and you aren't even human. You better tell us exactly what really happened or you are going to get hurt yourself. The woman flushed in momentary anger, but it quickly passed. Then she bowed to Goru again. My name is Tiamat and I was asked by the Mau Lucifer to train the Sekiryyuuei. She then turned and looked at Kuroka and Shirone and said, I am not here to start a fight with Yakai. I am here to take the family of Issei Haidu to the hospital and to bring Asia Argento, who is probably the only one capable of healing him right now. Who are you to challenge me? We are all his family. Shirone said. Tell us what happened to Issei and if you aren't our enemy, show us your true form. You came here at night and are telling us something happened to Issei. Then she turned and looked at her sister and said, we need answers, not a fight. Tiamat nodded and transformed. She stayed the same height, but she allowed her true power to show in her aura. I am the Chaos Karma Dragon, and my name, as I said before, is Tiamat. I am the strongest of the 5 dragon kings of this world, but to be more accurate I am the Dragon Queen. The Mau Lucifer along with the Mau Beelzebub asked me to train Issei Haidu in his power of the Sekiryyuuei. I was given a potion by the Mau Beelzebub in order to transform Issei into a dragon who could still retain his human form and to also remove the curse of and unlock more of the power of the Red Dragon Emperor. Tiamat shook her head in regret. But the transformation was too powerful, he unlocked too much power and he went berserk. Both his body and mind were damaged. They were both burned by the fire of the transformation. His body can possibly be healed by a potion called Phoenix Tears, but his mind. Tiamat gazed at Asia, that will call for the sacred gear, Twilight Healing which you, Asia Argento possess. Tiamat turned and faced Kuroka, who had taken up a fighting stance. Angrily Tiamat said, "Now, I can take you all to Issei's side and allow Miss Argento to heal Issei, or we can fight. If you chose to fight, you will lose, and I will take Asia by force because I want Issei to live. In the meantime, Issei could possibly die because you are too stupid to understand that I want to help him." "Everyone please calm down," Miki said. Then she bowed to Tiamat and said, "Please take us all to Issei's side." Kuroka nodded and relaxed her stance. Then Tiamat created a magic circle and opened the dragon gate. Then she said, "This will take us directly to the hospital where Issei was taken. I must warn you, it is not in this world, it is in the underworld, a place you humans might call hell." "That's fine, we've already been there," Miki responded. "Well, at least Kuroka, Shirone and I have already been there." Both Goro and Asia turned and looked at Miki in amazement. "Oh my goodness," Asia exclaimed. "I don't want to go to hell." Asia wasn't frightened of Tiamat, but she was truly terrified of the thought of going to hell. Shirone and Miki both took Asia's hand, and Kuroka turned and smiled reassuringly. "It is okay, Asia, it really isn't the place of the dead. It is just another realm, like Earth," Shirone said. "But I heard her, she said that she was sent by Lucifer. I don't want to go to hell." Asia jerked her hands away and fled to the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. Tiamat started to say something, but Miki held up her hand. "I will go get her," she said and left the room. Miki found Asia hiding under her bed. Miki sat on the floor and said, "It really is okay, Asia, I have been to the underworld. I was taken there after our house was destroyed. I met a very nice girl who is about your age. Her name is Rias and she even goes to the same school that you are going to attend. Her family is rebuilding our house and letting us stay in this hotel. Rias is a devil, and her brother is the Mao Lucifer. He isn't going to hurt you, I promise." "You promise?" Asia asked tearfully. "Do you think I would let anything bad happen to my dear sweet daughter? I love you, Asia." Asia crawled out from beneath the bed and embraced Miki. "I love you too, Mom. Let's go and help Issei." Miki led Asia back into the living room. Everyone was waiting and the dragon gate was still open. Kuroka walked over and hugged Asia. Shirone joined her in the hug. "Come on, little sister," Kuroka said to Asia, "you need to help the man you love." "You already knew I love him?" Asia asked. "Of course, I am a Nekomata and a woman. I can tell when a woman loves a man. Issei needs your help, so you need to find your courage." "I really don't know what is going on, but I will do anything to help my son," Goro said. "If that means going to the underworld, then by all means, let's go." "This way," Tiamat said and led them all through the dragon gate. Asia was still afraid, but she loved Issei, and she also loved Miki, Kuroka and Shirone. She also loved Goro, even she didn't really know him that well. That love gave her courage. She took a deep breath and entered the dragon gate. It was a bright blue circle glowing in midair. She watched everyone ahead of her enter and disappear and she followed. There was a bright flash, and Asia felt a brief moment of dizziness as she was transported into another dimension. She didn't know what she was going to expect. But after the flash she found herself in the waiting room of a hospital. She couldn't read the words written over the reception's desk. But she knew what they meant. Asia could read French, German and English, but she couldn't read Japanese yet. She could speak Japanese, but she didn't really know why. Issei had spoken to her in English when they first met, but she started answering him in Japanese. Spoken languages had always come easy to her, but she never really understood why. One of the attributes of Twilight healing was the gift of tongues, the ability to understand and speak any language. She heard Tiamat speak to the receptionist in a language she didn't understand. The receptionist answered in the same language. Asia listened carefully and suddenly she understood what they were saying. Tiamat turned and gestured towards Asia and said, "And this human named Asia Argento is the wielder of the sacred gear, Twilight healing. You are going to let her and the rest of her family in to see the Sekiryyuuei right now. But this is the intensive care unit, only 2 people are allowed at one time into the ward to see the patient." The receptionist responded. "Do you know who I am?" Tiamat asked angrily. "No. What difference does that make? Rules are rules. I am the dragon, Tiamat. You are going to let all of us in to see the Sekiryyuuei right now. Or I am going to eat you. Then I am going to break down that door and go in anyway. Do you understand now, or are you too stupid to comprehend what I am saying?" The receptionist turned white and hit a buzzer that opened the barrier that held the ICU door secure. There were very few conditions that Phoenix Tears could not heal immediately, and this hospital was designed to treat them. Tiamat smiled and said, "Thank you for your understanding," in a mocking tone. Then she turned around and said in Japanese, "Come on, let's go. Issei is in room 12. Everyone walked down the corridor and entered the room. Issei was lying on a bed and he was hooked up to a ventilator. He was covered in bandages for his burns. A nurse was speaking to a doctor when they entered. I have never seen anything like it. He was given 3 Phoenix Tears, but he didn't respond. I have never lost a patient before. I haven't seen burns like this before either. The doctor replied. His burns go all the way to the cellular level. He isn't a devil. His body can't decide if he is human or a dragon. His cells keep transitioning between the two species. That is why the phoenix tears cannot heal him. All we can do is keep him alive and hope that his cells will settle down on one species or the other. After that, perhaps the phoenix tears will work. The doctor looked up and spoke to everyone. I'm sorry, we have done everything we could do. Then his voice trailed off helplessly. Asia looked at Issei and held out her hands. Two small silver rings, one on fingers of each hand, began to glow in a green light that spread to her hands. Then the light spread until it covered Issei's entire body. Issei trembled and his vital signs became stronger. His blood pressure increased to normal and his heart rate steadied to a strong beat. The doctor looked from Asia to Issei and back again to Asia. Twilight healing, he said. I have heard of it, but I have never seen it before. The doctor reached over and turned off the ventilator. Then he started removing Issei's bandages. Instead of the terrible burns, Issei's skin was completely normal. When he touched Issei's face, he came in contact to Asia's healing aura. It reminded him of the feeling he felt when he was a child being caressed by his mother. His aches and pains of the day melted into renewed strength and vigor. He turned to Asia and asked, "What is your name, child?" "Asia Argento." "Asia Argento," the doctor repeated. "This hospital was created to care for people who could not be cured by phoenix tears. We can keep them alive, but there is little more that we can do. Either they recover on their own or they die. Your healing powers far exceed the healing properties of phoenix tears." "What are phoenix tears?" Asia asked. Before he could answer, he was interrupted by Miki. She couldn't understand the conversation, so she asked in Japanese, "Is my son going to be okay?" The doctor smiled with tears in his eyes and answered her in Japanese. "Yes. He is going to live." "Thank you," Miki said. "Don't thank me. All I could do was keep him alive until this remarkable young woman healed him." Miki and Goro embraced Asia and they both said simultaneously, "Thank you for saving our son's life." "What about his mind?" Tiamat asked in the devil's language. "Is his mind going to return?" The gauntlet appeared on Issei's arm and a voice answered in Japanese, "Yes. My partner has returned, he is only sleeping. With a good night's rest, he will be fine." "This is your fault, Drag," Tiamat said angrily. "You gave him too much power." "No, I didn't. I was being careful. You underestimated how much power you gave him. I am always careful with my partner." "Careful?" Tiamat snorted. "You're a power idiot and a coward. You always run away from me and you finally get a decent host, and what do? You nearly fucking killed him." Drag sighed and said, "Can we call a truce for now? Issei needs his sleep." "Truce? You got yourself killed and lost my treasure." "That wasn't my fault, Albion started it," Drag said sullenly. "Albion started it," Tiamat said in a mocking tone. "You are both idiots." Then she pointed at her crotch. "Do you see this, Drag? You didn't get any and you never will, but when Issei recovers, I'm going to fuck him and make you watch." "Yeah, right. The Dragon Queen, more like the Dragon Virgin," Drag replied. "Fuck off, Drag," Tiamat responded and stormed out of the room. "What just happened?" Goro asked. "I don't know, but they sound just like a couple of teenagers that had a nasty breakup." Kuroka smirked. "That isn't far from the truth," said a new voice. Everyone turned and saw a tall man with long red hair entered the room. The man was wearing an elaborate black and white robe tinged with gold. He was accompanied by a woman with long gray hair tied up in an elaborate braid and she was wearing a beautiful blue and silver formal dress. When the nurse and doctor saw the couple, they immediately dropped to one knee and bowed. "My lord," the doctor said. The red-haired man walked up to Goro and Miki and held out his hand. "Hello, my name is Surzich's Lucifer and this is my wife Grafia." Goro reached out and shook Surzich's hand and bowed slightly. "Nice to meet you, Surzich's. My name is Haidu Goro and this is my wife Haidu Miki." Miki shook Surzich's hand and said, "Nice to meet you." Then she looked at Grafia. "Aren't you the maid I met before at a castle?" "Please show some respect," the doctor whispered. "You are talking to the king and queen of the underworld." Everyone else started to bow, but Surzicha said, "Please. I am not here as a king. I am only here to greet the father and mother of the Sekiryyuuei. My actions led to his injuries. I came to both apologize and to invite everyone to my home as honored guests. I also need to apologize for the state that your son is in. His life was endangered and that is something that I did not foresee." "What happened to him, exactly?" Goro asked. "Your son is the Sekiryyuuei. He possesses the soul of the Welsh dragon Drag Gauche. He is the latest in a long line of humans who have carried both the power and the curse of the Sekiryyuuei, but of all the possessors of Drag, your son is different. He does not seek domination and power for power's sake. He only wishes for peace and to protect everyone he loves. I want him to protect the world, so I asked Tiamat to train him and I also asked her to transform him into a dragon. She succeeded, but the transformation injured and nearly killed him. For that I am truly sorry. My son is Goru started to say. The dragon. Surziches said. He is no longer a human. He has transcended humanity. Now he is one of the most powerful beings that has ever existed. Issei Haidu will become the most powerful Sekiryyuuei that has ever lived. He will finally break the curse and he will be the last Sekiryyuuei. Why? Mickey asked. Because he is now a dragon. Dragons have a limitless lifespan. Your son is going to live forever. Surziches responded. Suddenly Mickey slapped Surziches. Even so, you didn't have the right to do that to him. My son endured unimaginable pain. Why did you do that to him? The doctor and nurse were both shocked to see that someone dared to strike the Mau, but Surziches just bowed his head and said, because of the children. I want all children to grow up in a world where there is peace and safety. That is my dream and I believe that Issei Haidu can help me achieve that dream. I believe that your son can bring balance to the world. If that is so, perhaps, I shouldn't have slapped you. I apologize. Mickey said. No need to apologize. Surziches replied. I deserved that. Issei could have died and that would have been my fault. Many hours later Issei awoke. He was lying naked on his back in a hospital bed, but he wasn't alone. He felt someone snuggled up against him. A naked young woman was lying with him. She was lying sideways with one of her arms around his neck in an embrace. He felt one of her nipples on his chest, one of her legs was crossed over his, and her head was on his shoulder. They were covered by the sheet and blanket, but Issei could see her blonde hair. The last thing Issei remembered was Tiamat's sudden attack in the sky above the mountain. He remembered horrible unrelenting pain as he was mercilessly bathed in dragon's flame. Issei lost consciousness being bathed in flames, and he awoke in bed with a beautiful girl. Asia? He asked. Asia opened her eyes and smiled. Then she rolled over onto his chest and kissed him passionately. Be gentle with me, Issei. This is my first time. Issei was transferred to a normal hospital room after his burns were healed. Asia decided to wait in his room for him to wake up. She was certain that he had been fully healed, but she wanted to spend time with him alone. Issei was lying naked in the bed, covered by the blanket and sheet. Asia had been attracted to Issei since he first found her wandering the streets alone and hungry. He rescued her from Father Fried and brought her home to meet his family, and then she was invited to be part of his family. She tried hard to think of Issei as a brother, since he obviously had already started a relationship with Shirone and Kuroka, but she was no longer a nun. She was a young woman with needs and desires. And she had often imagined what it would be like to make love to Issei. She had even received tacit and outright approval from both Shirone and Kuroka, so she decided to pursue a more than sisterly relationship with Issei. Mickey, Goru, Shirone and Kuroka were transported back to the hotel suite in the human world by Grafia so that they could get some more sleep, shower and put on street clothes since they were rushed to the hospital in the middle of the night. Grafia promised to pick them up in the morning. Asia had insisted that she stay by Issei's side in case he needed additional healing, so everyone agreed and they left her in the hospital room and promised to return with clean clothes for both her and Issei. Asia sat in the chair for nearly an hour and finally she deliberately undressed and slipped naked into Issei's bed. It was a single bed, only made for one hospital patient, but she slid next to him and relished the feeling of his naked body in contact with her own. She had to lie sideways because Issei was sleeping on his back. She slipped one arm around his neck and one leg over his legs. She kissed Issei lightly on the lips and hugged him. She was very aroused and her nipples were hard against Issei's bare skin. Asia could barely contain her excitement. She wanted to wake him up and make love to him, but she also knew that he was physically exhausted and needed his sleep. Asia hoped that no one would disturb them, but she was also secretly hoping that someone would come into the room and find her, a former nun, lying naked in bed with a man. What would Mother Superior think of her if she came and discovered her in her sin? Asia suddenly wished that she was wearing her nun's habit. That would be far more scandalous. Oh. Well. That can't be helped now. She said to herself. She would lie naked with this man until he woke up and then she would ask him to take her virginity. What if he rejected her? She suddenly thought, but then she firmly pushed that thought down in her mind. She would make love to him and then, very soon, she would put on her habit and make love to him again. She wanted Mother Superior to find out that she had found someone to love, someone who would make her a woman. Asia wanted to have sex with Issei, and she wanted Mother Superior to find out about it, but how would she know? She was still in the convent in Germany, and Asia was in Japan. No, Asia thought she wasn't in Japan, she was in the underworld, the realm of the devil, and she was lying naked with a man, hoping that he would wake up and make love to her. What wicked thoughts she was thinking. Asia smiled and finally fell asleep in Issei's arms. Asia woke up when Issei gently rubbed her shoulder and called her by name. Asia, wake up. He said softly. She rolled onto his chest and kissed him. Asia had never kissed anyone before, but she started kissing him passionately. She felt his body responding to her and she softly said, be gentle, this is my first time. While kissing her, Issei started massaging her back and slowly his hands went down her back and reached her buttocks. She could feel something hard between her thighs and she wanted it inside of her. Asia moaned in pleasure and she rose into a kneeling position while they continued to kiss. Then she lifted herself off of him and waited while Issei reached down and guided his erect manhood into her with one of his hands. Slowly Asia slid down onto it. She felt momentary pain as her hymen broke but she was already wet with anticipation and sat all the way down on Issei's hips. Then she started raising and lowering herself and her pain and discomfort slowly changed into pleasure. Asia climaxed several times and then when Issei released inside her, she climaxed again. Asia exhausted, relaxed onto his chest and closed her eyes. "I love you Issei," Asia said and again she fell asleep in his arms. "I love you too Asia." Issei responded softly and after a while he also fell asleep. A while later the door opened and Issei awoke. Goro and Miki entered the room followed by Kuroka and Shirone. When they left, Asia was sitting in the chair next to Issei's bed, still wearing the pajamas she was wearing when they were all transported into the underworld by the Chaos Karma Dragon. Miki smiled when she saw Asia in Issei's arms and Goro was more than a little surprised, but he remained silent, waiting for Issei to say something. Issei gently shook Asia's shoulder and she woke up to find everyone looking at her and Issei lying in bed together. Good morning everyone," she said. "Could you all step back in the hallway so Issei and I can get dressed?" Finally Goro spoke to Issei, "Did you and Asia?" "Yes father." Issei responded, getting embarrassed. "It looks like Asia took full advantage of her alone time, Naya," Kuroka said smiling. "Agreed sister," Shirone responded. "But you know what? I'm not even jealous. She brought Issei back to us." No one else said a word for a few minutes and finally Goro turned around and headed for the door. "Come on everyone. Let's give them a little privacy so they can get dressed." Miki placed the bag containing clothes for Issei and Asia on the foot of the bed and winked at Asia. "I hope you are going to give me some grandchildren soon." Then she followed her husband out the door. Kuroka and Shirone started to follow and Kuroka turned around and asked Asia, "Well, did you enjoy yourself little sister?" "Actually, yes I did. Except," Kuroka said. You wish, what?" Kuroka asked. "I wish you had a camera." "What?" Kuroka, Shirone and Issei all asked in unison. Asia turned to face Issei and said boldly, "Issei when we get back home, I want to put my nun dress and veil on and then I want you to fuck me." Then she turned to Kuroka and said, "And I want you to take a picture." "Why?" Issei asked. "Because I want to send that picture to Mother Superior back at the convent and orphanage. She called me awful names when I healed the devil and told everyone in the church. Then she said that she hoped I would die alone and forgotten." "Are you sure that is what you want to do Asia?" Issei asked. "Oh, that is definitely going to happen Asia," Kuroka said with a laugh. "Why don't I video it instead?" Then she said, "Better yet, why don't you have a threesome with Shirone, Naya?" She turned to her sister and asked, "Hey Shirone, how about it? Tonight, transform into your Nekomata form and I will video you having a threesome with Asia and Issei for that old nun. I bet it gives that old bitch a heart attack." Then Kuroka started laughing again. "Oh, I wouldn't mind doing that," Shirone said with a smile. "What about you Issei?" Asia took Issei's hand and placed it on her bare breast and asked, "Please?" Kuroka nodded and she closed the door after she and Shirone left the room. Asia and Issei showered together in the bathroom of Issei's hospital room and they ended up making love in the shower. After they finished they dried each other off, dressed and went to find everyone else in the waiting room adjacent to the nurse's station. "Well, I guess I can check out of the hospital now," Issei said with a smile. "Thanks to Asia, I am feeling better than ever." "I bet you are," Goro said. "You have definitely changed in more ways than one while I was in Okinawa, son." "Yes father, I suppose I have," although Issei's voice trailed off. Then he said, "I'm sorry I deceived you and mother about Kuroka and Shirone. It wasn't intentional. I just never found the right time to tell you about them being yakai." Goro smiled and said, "Issei I wouldn't have believed it if you had told me. Your father is rather stubborn. I never believed in the supernatural before, but here we are in a hospital in the underworld and my son is possessed by the spirit of a legendary dragon." "Well no, Drake doesn't possess me. I possess him. It's kind of complicated," Issei said with a laugh. After they went to the nurse's station to check out of the hospital, the charge nurse told them that someone would be waiting in the lobby to take them all back to the human world. They were expecting Grafia, since she was the one who had both transported the family back to the human realm and back to the hospital in the underworld, but they were wrong. Instead, they found Surziches and Tiamat in her human form, waiting in the hospital lobby. "Hello everyone," Surzicha said cheerfully. "I hope you don't mind that it is Tiamat and I who will escort you back to Japan. I want to show you something, a little surprise, and Tiamat wants to accompany us. Is that alright?" Tiamat bowed and said, "I am very sorry Issei. I never meant for my training and your transformation to be so painful. I also put your life in peril. If it wasn't for this girl with twilight healing, Tiamat turned and bowed to Asia, we would have lost you. Tiamat walked over to Issei and touched his cheek with affection and said, you are a remarkable person Issei, you aren't just a possessor of the sacred gear, you are now a true dragon. I don't feel any different. Issei said. I remember you telling me that it was going to happen, but I just feel like me. Your aura is different Issei. Tiamat said. Your power level has gone up exponentially. You just don't feel it because your body has completely adjusted to your new power level. You look human now just because you want to be human now. When you want to be a dragon, you can change your appearance. It is that simple. Can all dragons transform their appearance? Issei asked. No. Tiamat responded. Less than a handful ever had that ability. Now there were only 4, the Dragon God Office, myself, Krom Kruich, the Crescent Circle Dragon, and Issei Haidu, the Red Dragon Emperor. Tiamat paused for a moment and then said, do you hear the Drag? Issei can do something that you never had the ability to do. He can transform his appearance. He has all of your power, and he can change forms. The green jewel manifested on the back of Issei's palm, but the gauntlet didn't appear. Out of the jewel Drake said, I am quite pleased with my partner. He has exceeded all of my expectations. And he is now my last partner. He and I are truly fused now, one dragon with 2 minds. What? Issei asked. You have all of my abilities Issei. Drake said. You don't need to even wear armor anymore. You are armor. You don't just have my powers Issei, you are me. We are the same dragon. That may be so Drake, Tiamat responded before Issei could fully comprehend what Drake had said, but that doesn't excuse you for losing my treasure. You are going to recover it. All of it. Yes ma'am. Issei and Drake responded in unison. Oh, and Issei. Tiamat said. We aren't completely finished with your training. There are more things that you need to learn. And do. Yes. Issei asked. You need to learn how to open the dragon gate yourself and you still need to build up your strength. I am giving you 1 week to rest and then I am taking you back to the underworld to teach you what you need to learn and do. Issei smiled fearlessly and said, I am looking forward to it. Oh, so am I Issei. Tiamat said with a smile. The Mayu, Ajuka has given me another potion. When I see you next, I am going to give it to you. It will greatly increase your stamina, but it will temporarily suppress Drake's mind and presence so that you can focus on your tasks without his distraction. The Mayu Seraphral is going to join us next week for a little training exercise that I am calling Fire and Ice. And you are going to need to focus without Drake's interference. What is the exercise going to entail? Issei asked. Do I need to plan on being away for a while? I do have school to attend and I shouldn't miss any more class than necessary. No, we are only going to be gone for the weekend, so you won't miss any class, but you will probably be sore on the following Monday. Tiamat said while walking up to Issei. Then she bent down to whisper in his ear. Drake, you need to listen very carefully to what I am saying. Next Friday afternoon Issei is going to join Seraphal Leviathan and I in my home in the underworld. Then Issei is going to drink a potion that is going to lock you away so you will not see, or even feel, what happens next. Issei Haidu is going to take my virginity. After that he is going to take the Mayu's virginity. Despite how Seraphal dresses and acts, she has never been with a man. Like me, she never found anyone she felt worthy to share her bed before now. Then Issei is going to fuck us both all weekend long and you aren't going to share that experience. Tiamat had whispered, but she made sure to whisper loud enough that everyone heard her. Tiamat smiled and then after she opened the dragon gate, she teleported away. Tiamat was clearly marking her territory and she wanted everyone to know it. Serziches politely coughed to get everyone's attention and said. Well, that was unexpected. I have another surprise, although it is for everyone, not just the Sekiryyuuei. I went ahead and had your house completed and fully furnished during the night. I used magic, but there is no need to delay its completion anymore. Your family is all together now. I can't replace your lost mementos and personal items, but I hope that you will make many new happy memories in your new home. It is bomb-proof and it has a very powerful barrier protecting it. Shall we go to your new home now? Kuroka smiled and said, can we stop and purchase a video camera before we arrive? I want to record everyone's reaction to the new house. That way we can share new memories right away, Naya. That is an excellent idea Kuroka. Mickey said happily. New memories of our new family in our new house. Yes, please. Asia said with a smile and she and Shirone shared a knowing look. Tiamat can try to take Issei away, but not tonight Issei was theirs. Several weeks later a package was delivered to the Mother Superior of a certain orphanage and convent in Germany. The package was marked urgent and the return address was from Father Fried Selson at the Kuo Prefecture Catholic Church, Kuo, Japan. In due time the Mother Superior received the package, opened it and found a Blu-ray disc marked urgent. Later, the Mother Superior was found by the old monk who served as the janitor for the orphanage, still in her office, with the TV and Blu-ray player turned on. The Mother Superior never spoke again, and it was assumed that she had suffered a small stroke. She was hospitalized for a short time and officially retired. As for the mysterious disc, it was never found, but the old monk later purchased a new Blu-ray player for his modest apartment. Two young women dressed in long white robes stood in the street, facing a 5-story mansion. One of them spoke. "This wasn't here yesterday, Zenobia. It was a half-finished construction site. Well, whoever lives in that mansion is in league with the devils." Zenobia responded. "There is a powerful barrier here that we cannot pass. Whoever they aren't hiding it anymore." "I agree, Zenobia. Those bonsai trees on either side of the door look ancient. But they can't be that old," Irina sighed. "There used to be a neighborhood here. My best friend lived next door and we used to do everything together. I was such a tomboy back then, we even built a hideout not too far from here. Well, it really wasn't much to look out, it was just a shack that we built together out of old scraps of wood that we found, but it was ours. We built it together." "What was your friend's name, Irina?" Zenobia asked. "Hi to Issei," Irina said. "We were such good friends and sometimes I still miss him. I wonder if he still lives around here." "Oh, so you didn't want to come here to find the missing Excaliburs, you came here to look up an old boyfriend. How disappointing," Zenobia said. Irina turned red in embarrassment and said, "Really, Zenobia? How long have we been partners? I am always serious in our assignments. We came to Japan to find the Excalibur that were stolen from the Vatican. It is just a coincidence that they were taken to the town where I was born. Still, Issei was the first and only boy that I ever kissed." "Really? Tell me more," Zenobia asked. "Oh, my. I should have never confessed that to you, Zenobia," Irina responded. "We weren't even in kindergarten yet. We had a sleepover at my house and I kissed him after he went to sleep. He never even knew about it." "How shocking, you kissed a boy and then you slept with him." Zenobia paused for dramatic effect. "I should tell Sister Griselda about this. What a wicked girl you used to be." "Oh, come on, Zenobia, I was 4 years old." 4. "We didn't have sex, we just slept in the same room." "Did you sleep in the same bed?" Zenobia asked. "Will you drop it already?" Irina said in exasperation. "Okay, Irina, it was just a little joke," Zenobia said. Then she changed the subject. "Do you think that the devils will interfere with our mission?" "Why would they? They hate the fallen angels as much as we do." "Then perhaps we should use whoever lives here as a contact with the devils, tell them not to interfere with our mission," Zenobia said. "How?" Irina asked. "We can't just walk up to the door and ring the doorbell. There is a barrier, you know," Irina responded. "We will just have to wait," Zenobia said. "Oh sure, 2 church warriors hanging out in front of a mansion for hours, waiting for someone to leave. Not suspicious looking at all," Irina said. "Do you have a better idea?" Zenobia asked. Before Irina could answer, the front door of the mansion opened and a young man exited the house followed by 2 girls. The boy was obviously Japanese, but the girls looked different. One of them had long blonde hair that hung past her waist and blue eyes. The other girl was a bit shorter than the other 2 and she had white hair. Zenobia ignored the other 2 and stared at the blonde girl. Zenobia remembered seeing her before, but where? The door was closed by the white-haired girl, but it immediately opened again and a woman said, "Don't forget your lunch, Issei." The man turned around and went back to the door and took the bento box from the woman. Then the woman said, "Make sure to make a good impression, Asia, but don't be too nervous, Issei will be right there with you." The blonde girl turned and nodded and then the woman kissed the young man and said, "Today is also my first day of class at Kuo University, so I'm going to need a little alone time with you when I get home, okay?" "Sure, Kuroka," the man replied. "Why don't we take a bath together and then go for a swim?" "I have a better idea," she responded. "First we fuck, then we have a bath together, then we fuck again. After that, we can go for a swim." "Okay, but after we swim, do you want to fuck?" he said. "No, mom's making curry tonight, you know that it is my favorite dish. First we eat, then you can fuck me again." "Oh hell no," the white-haired girl said. "After dinner Issei is going to be busy. He needs to study and he will have extra homework to make up for missing so much school lately, and after that Issei is going to spend the night with me. Alone." "What about me?" the blonde girl asked. "I need some alone time with Issei too." "You fucked him 3 times yesterday, Asia," Kuroka said. "Twice before he even got out of the hospital, and then last night you had a threesome with him and Shirone. All I got to do was hold the video camera and record it. You wanted to film it, Kuroka. You're a voyeur. You're a bad cat, you could have joined any time you wanted last night, but you just wanted to watch," Shirone said. "You are going to be a bad influence on Asia. You even propositioned Goro as soon as you revealed your true form to him while Issei was gone." "Wait, you propositioned Dad?" Issei asked. "Yes I did. I told him how much I enjoyed sitting in his lap while we grew up and I offered to let him sit in my lap for a change. It was only a joke. I asked Mickey if it was okay ahead of time. She said that it would be a great gag to embarrass him. She knows that Goro is totally devoted to her and she also knows that my heart belongs to you, Issei. I will never betray you like that. Issei said. That's quite a shock to hear. I am going to have to think about it for a while, perhaps I should consult with Issei Kiryu after school to better learn how to deal with multiple lovers. You just want to consult with Kiryu because she said that she memorized every position in the Hindu book of lovemaking and she said that she is highly skilled. Shirone said. Maybe I can bring home something new to make you all happy at the same time. Issei said with a smile. Yeah, like a new STD. I bet Kiryu has fucked every boy in your whole school, Issei. Kuroka said with a growl. No, Ika has higher standards. She won't fuck high school boys, she prefers college men. She's probably fucked every man in your school, Kuroka. Well, that makes me feel so much better. If you come home and give me an STD, Issei, I am going to kill Ika Kiryu and bury her in the litter box. Issei smiled and said, I can't catch an STD, Kuroka, remember? My dragon immune system is incompatible with human diseases. I can just raise my body temperature to kill anything trying to invade my immune system and besides, we don't have a litter box anymore. You and Shirone can live like humans now and that makes me happier than anything I can imagine. I love all three of you and we have a very long lifetime to share together. I'm now a dragon which means I am probably immortal and Kuroka, you and Shirone are Nekomata with lifetimes of hundreds of years and Asia has twilight healing, she can live for hundreds of years as well, besides, within 100 years you will all be immortal anyway. How? Asia asked. Humans rarely live to be 100 years old. I don't think even my twilight healing can keep me from growing old. Age isn't just a disease that can be healed and death for a human can only be put off for so long. I will love you for all of my life, but eventually I am going to be too old and I will die. Not going to happen, Asia. Issei took Asia's hand and then he said to Shirone and Kuroka, and it isn't going to happen to either of you either. I am giving you girls a little dragon DNA every day. You are all going to give birth to my children and they will be dragons. Not half human or half Nekomata dragons, full-fledged dragons, because by the time they are born, their mothers are going to be full-fledged dragons who can still maintain a human or even a Nekomata form. Asia asked, how are you going to give us dragon DNA every day, Issei? Is it going to hurt us like it hurt you? No, my lovely Asia. My DNA was forced to morph into dragon DNA by a magic potion and by dragon's fire in a sudden burst of change. Your DNA will be changed gradually by DNA that once was human and so it won't be harmful or painful. In fact, you seem to enjoy it a lot. You got 3 doses of dragon DNA yesterday. Issei said with a smile. I did. But yesterday all we did was now I understand. Asia said turning red as she finally comprehended. Then she smiled happily and said. And you need to make sure that I take it 3 times a day like the doctor recommends. Issei looked at his watch and realized that they were all going to be late for school, so he kissed Kuroka one last time and took Shirone and Asia by the hands and they started walking up the sidewalk until they stepped through the barrier. Zenovia was seething in righteous anger. Not only were these people in league with devils, but 3 of them weren't even human, they were a dragon masquerading as a human and 2 yakai, Japanese evil spirits, and the 3rd girl was Zenovia spoke, her tone was angry and accusatory. You are that heretic and witch Asia Argento. To think that you have fallen so low. As to live with evil spirits and dragons. Let me slay you now and maybe God will forgive you and welcome you into heaven if you repent. Irina Shido was conflicted and confused, could this young man, this dragon, be her childhood friend? She called out to him, Issei. Yes, it was him even though he was older there was no mistake. This young man was her first friend. At the same time that Zenovia was pulling out her sword, Irina was running toward Issei to embrace him. Shirone quickly stepped in front of Asia to protect her from Zenovia. Kuroka quickly ran and joined her sister in protecting Asia. They both recognized her power, she was only human, but she carried holy swords designed and created to slay devils, fallen angels, vampires and other evil creatures. The sword was more dangerous than the wielder. If they were cut by the sword they could be severely hurt or even killed, but their friend and newly adopted sister Asia had no offensive weapons or skills. She could easily be killed before she could activate her healing aura. They changed into their most potent battle forms. Kuroka transformed into a black leopard and Shirone transformed into a white tiger. For Irina, the mission was temporarily forgotten, she had found the boy that she had secretly loved since she was only 4 years old and if anything her love had grown stronger. Zenovia had removed her robe and was wearing her battle costume and she held 2 holy swords in her hands. She was a dual-wielding swordmaster and she stood still waiting for one of the giant cats to make a mistake so that she could quickly slay it and then slay the heretic they were protecting. In less than a second, Issei was moving at high speed. He sidestepped away from Irina's attempt to embrace him and ran up to Zenobia and grabbed both swords by the blades and jerked them out of her hands. He tossed the swords aside and knocked Zenobia to the ground with an open palm shove. Okay, you two start talking. Who the hell are you and why did you try to attack Asia? He yelled angrily. Zenobia was dumbfounded. He had grabbed two holy swords by the blades as if they were wooden practice swords. His hands weren't even cut by two very sharp blades. How did you do that? She asked dumbfounded. I'm the Sekiryyuuei. Issei said in response, and before Zenobia could say anything else, she was suddenly grabbed by her collar and lifted off of her feet. Then he pulled her to him so that her face was inches from hers. I ask you a question. I don't care if you are a woman, you will answer me right now, or you are going to be burned to ash. Irina ran up behind Issei and pleaded, Issei, it's me, Irina Shirone. Don't you remember me? Issei ignored Irina and continued to stare at Zenobia. Issei, please, Irina begged. Don't kill her. We were sent by the church to recover a holy sword that was stolen by the fallen angels, and it is here in Kuo. I'm listening. Issei said, still staring into Zenobia's eyes. He saw her rage melt into fear, but he didn't release his grip. You say that you are Irina, but Irina was a boy. Drop your sword on the ground and walk around in front of me. Irina unsheathed her sword and sat it on the ground. Then she held her hands up and walked slowly and carefully around so that she was standing slightly behind and to the side of Zenobia. I'm a girl, Issei. We used to play together. Do you remember our hideout? We built it together. We lived next door to each other. Your mom used to make the best miso soup. We played together. Do you remember me? Zenobia held up her hands and said, I surrender. My name is Zenobia Quarta. Irina Shirone and I were sent to recover Excalibur. It was stolen by a rogue priest named Fried Selzen after he was excommunicated. We came to Japan to recover it or die trying. We know that he is working with a fallen angel named Raynare. Issei lowered Zenobia to her feet and released his grip on her collar and said, Fried Selzen and Raynare are dead. You can go back to your church and tell them that. Then Issei shouted in rage, how dare you attack Asia? She never hurt anyone in her life. She was used and abused by your church and then she was thrown out with the trash. Do you know why she was thrown away? Because she helped someone. Then Issei turned and stared at Irina and said, if you really are Irina, then tell me. What was our Christmas promise? Without hesitation, Irina responded. We are going to kidnap Santa and hold him hostage. Tears came to Issei's eyes and he said, I've missed you, Irina. I've missed you too, eyes. Issei stood on the sidewalk in front of his mansion and stared at the two exorcists. Yes, there was no doubt that the girl with the blonde twin tails was his long-lost friend Irina Shirone, and he believed that he could trust her, but Zenobia Quarta was an unknown factor. Okay, Zenobia, I am going to trust you to a point for now, but you are going to remain unarmed around Asia until I am certain that you no longer pose a threat. Unbuckle your scabbards and hand them over. Zenobia reached down and unbuckled the scabbards and gave them to Issei. Issei picked up each sword in turn, and after sheathing them he turned to Kuroka and said, I am going to leave them in your hands. Kuroka transformed back to her Nekomata form and Issei handed her the swords. If my partner is unarmed, then I should be unarmed as well. Irina said. Then she also unbuckled her sword and handed the scabbard to Kuroka. Kuroka bowed and took the sword. Shirone transformed into her human form and walked up to Issei and asked, are you sure that we can trust them? I trust Irina. I do not yet know if I can trust Zenobia or not, but for now, Issei looked into Zenobia's eyes, I will let her live. Issei watched as Kuroka turned and carried the swords back across the barrier and then she turned and said, if either of you make Asia cry, I will kill you. I am not as forgiving as my lover is. We still have our mission, Ice. Irina said. We still need to recover the missing Excalibur from the fallen angels. We can't just return empty-handed. That sword is dangerous and I believe that the fallen angels are planning to restart the Great War. I believe that you are right, Irina, but I can't just let you go and I am not going to make any decision regarding the fallen angels unilaterally. You are going to come with me. Where are we going? Irina asked. To our old hideout, but first I need to invite a couple of guests to join us. Then Issei pulled out his cell phone and dialed a number. After a moment the call was answered and Issei said, hello Sona, I need you to call Rias. I need both of you to come to the temple of the Sekiryyuuei. I have a couple of guests that you need to meet and the meeting needs to take place at a neutral location. Issei paused and said, no, just you and Rias. You can't bring Shinra or Keno. I don't want my guests to be any more uncomfortable than necessary. Yes, it is important. Just you and Rias. I will see you in a few minutes. We will be walking there. Okay, goodbye. The temple of the Sekiryyuuei? Irina asked. Our old hideout changed a bit since you last saw it. Do you still remember where it is? Behind the school in the woods. How can I forget that, we built it with our own hands. Irina said. After a few minutes of walking they entered the woods and both Irina and Zenobia started feeling pressure. There was a powerful magic barrier that neither of them were familiar with, and fog filled the air as the temperature dropped. As they continued, the pressure became greater and the fog became thicker, but Shirone waved her hand in the air and the pressure was gone, but it felt like a door had shut behind them and locked. Both Irina and Zenovia started to become a little bit afraid. Was Issei planning on killing them now that they were off the street? No, Issei wouldn't do that, Irina thought, and she placed a reassuring hand on Zenovia's shoulder. As if reading their thoughts, Shirone said, the barrier is to keep out uninvited guests. No harm will come to either of you, as long as you two behave yourselves. Before them was an ancient-looking Japanese shrine. There was a low stone wall with cat statues on the four corners. There was a red torii with a European red dragon engraved between the upper and lower lintel of the gate. The shrine itself was made from cut stone, and there was a red silk curtain covering the entrance to the shrine. This is the temple of the Red Dragon Emperor. It is a sacred space. Shirone said. Sacred? Irina and Zenovia asked together. Yes. This is the space where the last Sekiryyuuei was awakened, and he will bring peace to the world as he takes his place as the third dragon god. Shirone said solemnly. Before Zenovia or Irina could respond, Issei said, Shirone is just joking. I am no god. I am just the Sekiryyuuei. Nothing more and nothing less. What is a Sekiryyuuei and who is the Red Dragon Emperor? Zenovia asked. The Sekiryyuuei is a title given to the person born with the soul of the Welsh dragon, Dreg, bound in a sacred gear that manifests as a jeweled gauntlet. Dreg is the Red Dragon Emperor. I am merely the latest possessor in a long line of possessors since Dreg and Albion, the White Dragon Emperor, were defeated by the combined forces of heaven and the underworld, and their souls were sealed so that they could never be reborn. Whatever you say. Zenovia said doubtfully. I don't believe a word that you say. You look human, but you are a dragon. That much I believe, but heaven and the underworld joining forces. That would never happen. Issei raised his right hand and a red gauntlet appeared. It covered his hand and arm up to his elbow. The gauntlet had claws and looked like the forearm of a red dragon. There was a green jewel on the back of the hand on the gauntlet. Say hello, Dreg. Issei said. The jewel lit up and a deep voice spoke from the jewel. I am Dreg Ghosh, the Red Dragon Emperor of Domination. Hear my name and die of despair, foolish mortal. In their minds, both Zenovia and Irina saw a massive 300-foot-long dragon sweeping devils, angels and fallen angels from the sky, with his white-hot flames, as he and an equally large white dragon fought against one another in a fierce and terrible battle. The angels, fallen angels who were fighting against one another. The fallen angel with 10 black wings said, I, Azazel, call a truce for the sake of creation. These dragons must be stopped or the entire world will be destroyed. An angel with 10 golden wings responded, stop the battle and attack the twin sky dragons. I, Michael, so command you. Finally a devil responded, I am Zekrom Baal. Our Mayu has fallen battle, but if we do not stop the dragons our species will cease to exist. In the name of Lucifer, I order all devils to join with our enemies to stop the dragons. The vision ended and both Zenovia and Irina were on their knees. They were both overwhelmed by the vision of the battle and the presence of the massive dragon that was revealed to them from within the jewel. Then Issei himself transformed. He looked exactly like the dragon in the vision, only smaller. His power and aura were exactly the same. Do you believe us now, warrior Zenovia of the Catholic Church? Dreg asked. It took a few minutes for Zenovia to find her voice. Finally, she responded in a voice barely above a whisper, oh yes, I believe you. There is no doubt in my mind. What about you, Irina? Issei asked. Oh yes, I believe you, Issei. Irina whispered. So this temple is dedicated to you. I don't even know what to say. Issei returned to his human form and Dreg's presence vanished. No, this temple is not dedicated to me, it was dedicated to Dreg and I did not name it. It was named by my first love. Her name was Elsha. A look of grief passed over Issei's face. I'm truly sorry, Issei. Irina said. When did she die? Her body perished hundreds of years ago, but her soul was bound to the jewel as the most powerful woman who ever wielded Dreg. She was my mentor and she created this temple with Dreg, Kuroka and Shirone. Within the temple she could take a physical form. She trained me and I loved her. I still love her. Fragments of the souls of all of the previous Sekiryyuueis were bound by a powerful curse called Juggernaut Drive. When Elsha, Shirone and Kuroka finally lifted the curse, all of the souls were freed. Finally, Elsha disappeared saying that she had no more regrets because she had finally found love. She said that she would be waiting for me on the other side and that she would always love me. Her last words to me were, at last I have no regret. I have finally known love. Issei shook his head sadly and as tears flowed down his face he said, I am going to bring peace to this world and then when I am strong enough, I am going to the realm of the dead and I am going to demand that the ruler of hell return her to me. Issei clenched his fist and then said, if he refuses, I will destroy him and take her by force. Irina responded in a shaky voice. I don't know if I should be jealous or afraid. I have always loved you, Issei. I wish you loved me that much. Irina covered her mouth with her hands and turned beet red. That is to say, her voice trailed off and she clamped her mouth shut. Zinovia said, all I have known is my faith and my dedication as a warrior, but if a man would love me that much Asia said, Issei rescued me and I love him body and soul, and he loves me with the same passion. Then Shirone said to Irina, Issei rescued Kuroka and I when I was just a starving kitten. I was near death when Issei found us here in this place. I was starving and freezing when he found me in the shack that you and he built. I would have died had he not found me. He brought Kuroka and I home and took care of us. When we revealed to him that we are yokai, he was not afraid of us. We loved him and he loved us. We still love him. I still love him. If Issei rejected me now and reached out his hand to kill me right now, I would not resist him. I would die by his hand and never stop loving him. But Issei will never stop loving me, us, because he is a dragon and we are his treasure. A dragon will never give up his treasure, did you know that, childhood friend? Issei will always love me. Then she looked at Issei and said, no, Ice, we did not build this temple to drag. We built it to you. It is a testament of our love to you, Issei. Elsha, Kuroka and I built this for you. Issei helped Irina and Zinovia to their feet, but before he spoke, the curtain opened and a young woman with short black hair and glasses opened the curtain and walked out of the temple. She was followed by a woman with knee-length flowing crimson red hair. The first woman walked boldly up to Issei, and after embracing him, she passionately kissed him. Then she said, I love you, Issei, is there room in your heart for me as well? The woman with crimson hair said, I also love you, Issei. You saved me from Razor. Even if you never reciprocate my love, I will always love you. Sona, Rias, I don't know what to say right now. You don't have to answer us right now, Issei. Sona said, Rias and I will be patient. I only hope that you will grow to love me as much as I love you. Yes, Issei, Rias said, I will wait for your love, but I should tell you, I have already slept naked with you. I kissed you while you were sleeping in my bed at the mansion, and I will happily give you my virginity. Just call my name and I will be there, anytime and anywhere. But grief, Rias, you are as bad as my sister. Sona said. Issei called us out here for a different reason, you can rape him later, okay? I wouldn't. Oh fuck, just shut up, Sona. Rias responded. Then Rias asked Issei, okay, why did you call us out here? Let me introduce everyone, Issei said. These young women are Irina Shidu and Zinovia Quarta. They are church warriors who are here because the fallen angels have stolen a holy sword called Excalibur and they believe that it is here in Kuo town. They are going to restart the war. But, why here? Rias asked. That isn't hard to figure out, Rias. Issei said. Then he turned to Irina and Zinovia and Irina and said, these lovely ladies are Sona Citri and Rias Gremory. They are the younger sisters of the Mass, Seraphol Leviathan and Surzich's Lucifer. Zinovia smiled bitterly and said, a short while I would have attacked you without reservation, as soon as I found out that you are devils, but Issei has taught me something. The angels, fallen angels and devils, stopped their war to stop two dragons from destroying the world, and now one of those dragons wants to prevent that war from starting over. I swear in the name of my God that I will not attack you or any other devil in this town. I only wish to recover Excalibur and return to the Vatican in peace. Rias reached out her hand and said, I will grant you safe passage in Kuo town. None of the devils in this area will bother you, but we cannot openly aid you either. Right now the truce is uneasy at best, and we cannot upset the balance. Then Sona said, I will have my familiar spy on any suspicious activities by the fallen angels, should they make an appearance, and I will inform Issei. He can then pass along the information to you. At first Irina was going to refuse to take Sona's hand, but Issei glared at her and hissed, take her hand, Irina, even if you don't want to be friends with her, she is a high-class devil and the sister of one of the four Mau. You will show her respect. A flash of anger ran across Irina's face, but it was quickly gone, then she bowed apologetically and took Sona's hand in both of hers and shook hands with her. I am in your care. She said. Then she shook hands with Rias, and Zinovia also shook hands with both Rias and Sona without being prompted. I will not break our truce. I swear in the name of Saint Michael, the Archangel of our God. Sona then said, I must inform my peerage that two church warriors are currently under my protection, so I must go now. For now, I will not inform my sister or any of the other Mau. This will be our small non-aggression pact. Rias smiled and said, I too must inform my servants. Goodbye and good luck. We will contact you through Issei if we find any news for you. Then both she and Sona teleported away. Issei rubbed his hands together and said, well, that went better than I hoped. Where are you going to stay while you are here in town? We plan to stay in my father's old church. Irina said. The one on the top of the hill. Issei shook his head and said, no, that is a bad idea. The church was abandoned many years ago and was taken over by the fallen angels. It is not a safe place. Well then, what about the hotel here in town, is it nice? Zinovia asked. Yes, it is a beautiful hotel with a great restaurant, but it is owned by Rias Gremory's father. It is called the Grand Gremory Hotel. I don't think that two church warriors on a secret mission should stay there. Issei said. Well, there is always the park. Zenobia said. I have a better idea, Asia said, why don't you come home with us? We have a lot of empty bedrooms in our house, and mom is a great cook. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Especially since you are Issei's long-lost friend Irina. I don't know if that is a good idea, Asia. Zenobia tried to kill you once, you know. Shirone said. Yes, I did, and I am truly sorry, Asia. What I did was unforgivable, but I swear that I will never raise a blade or hand to harm you again, and I hope that you will forgive me anyway. Sure. Asia said, smiling. I hope that we can be friends. Even though the church abandoned me, I am still a believer. Perhaps we can at that, Asia. Zenobia said and reached out her hand. Instead, Asia walked over and hugged Zenobia and said, until I met Ice, I never had any friends or family. Now I have 2 sisters, a mom, a dad and a boyfriend who loves me. Now I hope to make lots of friends. Yes, I would like that. Zenobia said. I would be honored to be your friend, Asia. Irina hugged both Zenobia and Asia and said, I want to be your friend to Asia because you are friends with Issei. Then she looked at Shirone and said, I would like to be your friend as well, Shirone. Perhaps we can become friends someday, Shirone said, but for now, let's just wait and see. Well, Irina, Zenobia, Asia has invited you to our home. It is safer than the park. You can stay with us as long as you need to. I for one, would love to see your mom and dad again, Issei. Irina said cheerfully. What about it, Zenobia, do you want to take Issei up on his hospitality? Zenobia wavered for a few minutes, but then she said, well, I've never been inside a mansion before. We could at least go and see Issei's parents. I would like to know more about my partner's old friend. A short while later, everyone was standing on the sidewalk outside of the mansion. Shirone turned to Irina and said, give me your hand. Not knowing what to expect, Irina reached out her hand and Shirone took her hand and drew a magic symbol on the back of her hand. This is a yokai spell, it will allow you to cross the barriers at both our home and the temple. Irina withdrew her hand and saw the symbol glow for a few seconds, and then it vanished. She didn't feel anything different, but when she reached her hand out beyond the sidewalk, the pressure she had felt earlier was gone. It was as if the barrier no longer existed. She nodded her thanks, and then Shirone looked at Zenobia. Without hesitation, Zenobia offered her hand, and Shirone drew the same symbol on Zenobia's hand as well. Then they walked to the entrance and Issei opened the door. When the door opened, Miki Haidu was in the kitchen. She had just finished washing the dishes and she wasn't expecting anyone. Ice, Asia and Shirone were in school, Goro was at work, and Kuroka had also left for her first day at Kuo University. When Miki entered the living room, she saw Issei, Shirone and Asia with 2 unfamiliar girls. The girls were wearing hooded church robes, but the hoods were down and their heads were uncovered. One of the girls had short black hair with a green lock of hair in her bangs. She looked like a foreigner. The other had long brown hair that was tied in twin tails, but despite the hair color, she looked Japanese. But there was something about the Japanese girl's face. She remembered. Irina Shido. It has been such a long time, she said, then she rushed to Irina open-armed and hugged her. My, what a lovely young lady you turned out to be. Ice used to think I was a boy. Irina said. Oh, I'm not surprised, Miki said with a laugh. You were quite the tomboy when you were in primary school, and Issei used to be an idiot, but he has turned out to be quite a fine young man. Irina laughed and said, yes, he has really changed since I last saw him. Oh, by the way, this is my friend Zenobia. We are touring Japan, and I wanted to show her my old hometown while we were here. Zenobia bowed and Miki returned the bow. It is nice to meet you, Zenobia. When did you girls get in town? We flew in from Italy late last night and we took the train from Tokyo early this morning. Oh my goodness. Miki exclaimed, you girls must be exhausted and hungry. Oh, have you found a place to stay while you are in town? Never mind, you can stay here. We have plenty of guest bedrooms on the 2nd floor. Why don't you girls have a bath? There is a lovely large bath in the basement and even a swimming pool. While you are bathing, I will put fresh linens on your beds and make you girls a nice breakfast. Then I will show you to your rooms and you can rest until my son and daughters get home from school. Then she turned to Ice and said, you 3 are late for school and this is Asia's first day. Run along, I'll keep Irina and your new friend company until you get home. Really? We don't want to impose, Mrs. Haidu. Zenobia said. Forget it, Zenobia, Irina said. Issei's mom is a force of nature. You will never win an argument with her. It's best that we just do what she said, and frankly I would love a Japanese bath. It has been so long since I had one. It's true. Shirone said. I have known her almost my entire life and she is the most generous woman on earth, but she will not take no for an answer. Then Miki said, run along, you 3. I have a meal to prepare and you are late. Miki led Zenobia and Irina to the stairs at the end of the hall and said, follow me and I will show you the bath. There are clean robes and slippers in the changing room. Breakfast will be ready in an hour. Issei, Shirone and Asia left for school, and as soon as they were out of the door, Shirone said, I put a spell on both of them, if they try to hurt mom, it will activate and stop them. Wow, Asia said, you can do that. Of course, I am a Nekomata. There is a lot of things that I can do that you don't know about, Shirone said smugly. It isn't going to kill them, I hope. Issei said. No, but they will be very sick for a long time, and their mission will end in failure. Neither of them will ever be able to lift a sword again because they will be mostly paralyzed. That's brutal, Issei said, but I don't believe it is necessary. Irina is trustworthy, and I don't believe that Zinovia will do anything either. She gave her word. I don't really think that it is necessary either, Ice. Shirone said, but I will always protect my family with my life. Trust, but verify is a very good policy to live by, is it not? Yes, it is, Shirone, but if I had even the slightest doubt about Zinovia, I would have never allowed her in our house. Issei said. A little while later, Zinovia and Irina were relaxing in an underground hot spring. The entire room was carved out of solid stone, and the hot spring filled a large pool that was large enough to swim in. The hot water was the perfect temperature, and there were healthful minerals in the water. The light above the pool looked like a globe of the full moon. The light was just bright enough to read by, although there was no books in the room. This is a Japanese bath? Zinovia asked. Not for the first time. When they finished their showers and walked through the door into the room. The shower room was large and spacious, and there were enough shower heads for up to 6 people to shower at one time. The fixtures looked like they were made out of gold, but Zinovia was sure that they were made out of brass. Of course she was wrong. They were in fact gold-plated copper. One door in the shower room led to an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and the other led to this cave with the pool that they were sitting in. The floor and the seating area were carved out of granite, but the bench was smooth and comfortable to sit on, and there was just enough texture to the floor so that no one would slip while walking around in the pool. The pool could easily fit 10 or more people, and while sitting on the seat, the water was chest deep on the 2 girls. They had soaked for nearly an hour, and the hot water and steam was making both of them drowsy. No, Zinovia, Irina said, this is not a Japanese bath. This is an onsen. Onsen, Zinovia asked. Yes, a hot spring. Issei has a real hot spring under his house. If I am guessing correctly, we are under where my house used to sit. There was a hot spring right under my house when I was a child, and my parents never knew it. Forget it, Zinovia. I am never leaving Japan again. I am going to marry Issei so I can use this hot spring every day for the rest of my life. Come on, Irina, don't make jokes like that. We have a mission to complete. We are 2 of the best exorcists that the church has. Zinovia said. Besides, you heard the conversation this morning. Issei is already having sex with Asia, Shirone and Kuroka, also both of those devils want him. We need to complete our mission and go back. You cannot allow yourself to be tempted. You have your faith and that should be enough for you. Zinovia, you may have aspirations to become a Catholic nun, but I do not. Someday I want to have a husband and children. Irina responded. I want to be a wife and mother someday. It is a small dream, but that is what I am fighting for. That may be so, Irina, but your childhood friend is a dragon in an adulterous relationship with at least 6 women, perhaps more. We need to complete our mission and get out. You should not even allow yourself to even think about it. Find a good Christian man someday and settle down. I will support you in that dream. We should hurry up and finish our bath, and then we should thank Mrs. Haidu for her hospitality and get away from your dragon friend. We shouldn't rely on dragons and devils to accomplish our mission. We should rely only on our faith. No, Zinovia, Irina said seriously, we were sent on a suicide mission, and I don't intend to die. Do you want to fail your mission and die at the hands of a fallen angel? Do you want the fallen angels to win? No, of course not, Irina. Then relax and accept the help. I trust Issei and I love his parents. Irina said firmly. We will find Excalibur, but until we do we are going to stay here in this house where it is safe, and we are going to accept help from Rias and Sona. Okay, Irina, we will stay and accept the help, but I am going to pray that you don't fall into temptation. Zinovia said. Then she said, Oh Lord, protect my friend and companion Irina. Keep her from temptation. Amen. But silently she also prayed, and protect me too, because that dragon has awakened something in me. Her thoughts drifted. What would it be like to have sex? How would it feel to have Issei's hands caressing her breasts and her back? How would it feel to have him inside her, to make love to a man, no to a dragon? No, lead me not into temptation, dragon. She said with a whisper. What did you say? Irina asked. I was praying for you, Irina, that's all. Zinovia said. Okay. Thank you, Zinovia. Irina replied, but she heard what Zinovia said, and she also had a pretty good idea what Zinovia was thinking. She had seen the look of arousal on Ria's face when she looked at Issei, and that look was mirrored on her friend's face. Zinovia was never able to hide her emotions from anyone. Irina knew that better than anyone. She also wondered if her face had the same look. Forgive me, Lord, for what I am planning to do. Irina thought. I will ask for your forgiveness later. I promise. Neither girl had ever experienced the subtle pheromones of a dragon and they were both totally defenseless against it. Issei was a dragon who cared deeply for the women that he loved and even he was unaware of the effect that he had on women. It was never actually his intent to seduce anyone and he was actually mystified as to why both Rias and Sona wanted him. He knew that Sekiryyuuei wanted to have sex with him but he was convinced that she was just a nymphomaniac. Of course, he was wrong. She was a frustrated virgin that was head over heels in love with him. She was a pervert just like his two friends Mitsuda and Motohama, but just like them she was actually too shy to actually sleep with a boy or even kiss one. She had an undeserved reputation as a slut, but she did or said nothing to dispel the rumors. She thought that it was better to be considered a slut than a pathetic virgin that never even kissed a boy. She hid nearly crippling shyness with false bravado. She actually never considered giving anyone her first kiss as well as her virginity until she met Issei Haidu. Someday, she would tell him the truth someday. Of course Irina, Rias and Aika weren't the only women that wanted Issei. Akeno Himejima and Shinra Tsubaki also wanted him. So did Seraphol Leviathan and Tiamat. The last two wanted him so bad that they were actually conspiring together to kidnap him, tie him up and take him by force if they couldn't convince him to make love to them. Issei was a dragon and his treasure was neither gold nor jewels but the people that he loved and chose to protect. End of the part 4. So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.